Hello, all you lovely freedom people out there, and welcome to today's Fireside Freedom Chat on the Freedom People Podcast. I'm your host, Bradley Freedom. Today's show is about correcting your status away from the United States fictitious corporation and bringing yourself back to the land. Today's guest in the studio is Diane A. Light, and she is the Maricopa County Recorder here in the great state of Arizona. This is such a wonderful conversation and very informative about how we can really start to take our freedoms back. Because here on the Freedom People Podcast, you know that that's what we're all about. Now, before we get started, what I need you to do is grab your phone, text in the keyword land1, that's the word land and the number 1, to 844-992-3733. That's 844-992-3733. Text in that keyword land1 and we'll send you out today's show notes. Come on, let's go. So we're going to talk about all kinds of amazing things today. I have a lot of questions. I know Emily does, and we'll try and keep it in an hour. But if not, we'll do more, if that's okay.
Yeah,
because this is an ongoing conversation I'm finding, and the more and more people that I talk to about it, more and more questions come up, right? Just because we're trying to change the way people think, and not just think, but their core belief systems, right? These indoctrinations.
That's a tall order for anybody.
For
right?
sure.
To change that conditioning that we've all fallen under.
Yep.
Because it's not just your lifetime of conditioning, it's your parents and their parents and their parents that genetically gets passed on to you. Because genes, each cell has a memory.
Yeah.
So each of those cells remembers that kind of thing.
Right. Awesome.
Deep.
Yeah, it is deep.
That's one thing I learned this weekend, spending time with my mother, is how much I have grown.
Isn't that great? That's really great. Good for you.
Yeah. So in the studio today, we have Emily, and we also have Diane Light. Diane, our guest, Diane. Do you want to tell people who you are and a little bit about yourself?
I go by the name of Diane A. Light, and I am a living woman. Spent a lot of my life searching for who I was, searching for truth in a lot of different ways. And about 20 years ago, I came across a group. I will not tell you the name of the group because of an NDA, but I can tell you that Tony was the leader of that group and introduced me to the concept of the strawman and what had happened. And that changed my life. It really did change my life.
Can you go into the straw man a little bit more?
Oh, you want to do that now?
I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it's not the time. You tell me. I mean, yeah, we are. Let's kind of
not do that because
let's ease into it.
I have a problem of digressing anyway and kind of going off the script, which we don't have a script.
We don't have a script. We really don't at all. But that's why we like to keep it loose. Yeah. These are our fireside freedom chats, kind of, you know what I mean? It's less interviewing and more like, genuine questions. And that's why the people that I have on and stuff are people that I legit want to speak to.
Right.
That we do. And these are, it's not just I want to talk to, but I think it's super important for this information to get out.
Well, I spent a lot of my adult life doing some healing work. I had a practice and did some healing work. And then when I found this group, I just wanted to tell everybody. I wanted to tell everybody about the straw man. I wanted to tell everybody about how screwed we were and what happened to us. And I was so excited to tell everybody. And that was in 2009. And I asked this friend of mine who's an elderly gentleman. I said, Ron, I got to talk to you. I just found this out. And I want to tell him, I think it's my path to tell people this. And he listened and he listened and he listened. And then he looked at me and he said, well, that's really great. So you're going to tell people how screwed they are and how they've been screwed over and stuff. Then how are you going to, then what can they do about it?
Right.
Stopped me dead in my tracks because I had no answer for that. I had no answer of what the remedy was at that time in 2009. He said, you do not tell people where they're at and how bad it is unless you can tell them that there's some hope or that there's some kind of remedy, because all you're going to do is incite more fear.
Sure.
So I just stopped it. I dropped it. I didn't do any more. Kind of went on with my own life and kind of, kept doing my thing. And I ended up using, on the back of the Social Security cards from my generation, there was a letter and some numbers. And that's the letter tells you where your Federal Reserve bank account is held that's in your living people name, as a living people, not as a corporation, but as a living people. And that's my money. That's my account that was stolen from me, right? And I'll get into more about that later because I think it's a fascinating story.
That's very fascinating.
That Tony told us. But I had just bought a little PT Cruiser, and I made my first $200 payment on it. And then I thought, hey, what do I have to lose? So I was with USAA. That's where the loan was. So I went to the website, and I put the number in. And I think I either put the couple of zeros at the front end or a couple of zeros on the back end. So there was enough numbers there, expecting to get the screen back that said, oh, you've added an account. We're going to have to make a couple of deposits and verify this account, which would stop me dead in my tracks, right? Because I can't get into the Federal Reserve Bank to look at my account. Right. And but a screen came back and said, congratulations, you just added a viable and verifiable bank account. You can now use it. So I did. I did. I used it on my car. I used it on some credit cards. I used it on everything.
Like a blank check.
It was like a blank check. Yeah, I used it on everything. 2 days later, I got a letter from the USAA bank that said, congratulations, you paid off your car. We're so proud of you. Your title's on its way. And then I had the title by the end of the week.
Wow.
And possession is 99% of the law. So I now had my car in possession. So I paid $200 for this car and had it for quite a while.
Right.
So I knew that the system worked. I knew that I wasn't being told lies at that point.
Right.
And so I just stayed up with it as much as I possibly can. The group went dark. Everything in that group that I was in got really quiet. No, there was no communication. I filled out CUSIPs. I filled out UCCs. I filled out revocation taxes. I filled out all that, but I have no idea if any of that was filed. We passed it on to somebody, and that's it. So fast forward, I moved to Arizona in 2012, and when I had a friend in that group that I stayed friends with, and we talked quite a bit. And he's very good with common law. He's very good with being able to go to courts and help people in courts. That's not my expertise. I'm going to tell you right now. Don't even ask me about that stuff.
Sure.
I start talking about paperwork like that, my head starts spinning around. Things could come out of my mouth that, you don't want to see. So that's not my expertise. I know where my expertise is at, and that's where I focus in my gifts, right? But he told me, Diane, the Republic's been restored in 2018. And I was so excited. Oh my gosh, we've been waiting for this for so long.
Right.
So I started watching the news because I was waiting for somebody to announce it. Because one thing that we were told that can be validated is no matter what happened to us in the 1600s and what things were stolen from us, the common law, universal law says that a law cannot be put into effect unless it's publicly announced. Okay?
Right.
So I'm waiting for a public announcement. Yeah, yay. Well, that never came. So a couple of years ago, he introduced me to the Arizona Assembly, which is the group that has expatriated and has set up the assemblies in the territorials districts.
Okay.
I don't know if districts is the right word. There's a thing about words, Brad and Emily, that is a whole, wrapping your head around. We're so conditioned, right? Mm-hmm. When you live on the land and you work and you're in common law, there's no titles because title is nobility. Mm. And it puts you into a corporate status or a status of nobility. We're all free men and women.
Right.
So I'll apologize right now because I do slip back into that old conditioning.
Yeah.
I'm an old lady, so it's like, well, I'm not really an old lady.
No.
That's a state of mind. But,
indeed,
I've been around for a while, so that conditioning is very deep.
Sure.
So anyway, I was introduced to some people and I guess vetted through conversation, and somehow I ended up the Maricopa chairwoman. What was the coordinator, now we're the chairmen and chairwomen.
Right.
So then from there, I was elected in as a recording secretary and notarietal witness. So that's my background.
Okay.
That's how I got here. Been studying it for a long time.
Sure.
It's a lot of studying. And when you start getting into the details of the forms and stuff like that, if you start studying at that level, it's very overwhelming unless your brain works that way. And so if you're like me, you just need to know the story. You need to know what happened in layman's terms.
Right.
And then you can go and you can validate all of this. This has all been there.
Sure. So I guess in short, real quick, like I guess to kind of start on what is common law? Like, because I know that's really the big question I always get first, especially with someone who's new to it, right? Just fresh off, right? Like no idea what is common law.
Well, when this country was started in the 1600s, we expatriated. We left Britain, supposedly,
right,
to start a sovereign country.
Right.
And in that sovereign country, each man and each woman and every baby born would have an amount of money set aside for them to take care of them. And at that time, it was gold or silver. Okay. We didn't have Federal Reserve notes.
Right,
we didn't have somebody cranking out the paper, right?
Yeah.
So, and then there was a barter system. So you each had a certain amount of money set aside for you. And that money was to take care of your food, your clothing, and your education and your housing for the rest of your life.
Right.
That's that sovereign living being on the land, a man or a woman.
Right.
And what was interesting, one of the stories that we were told was that each baby had certain amount of gold put aside for them. So here you have, like, let's say it was $684,000 worth of gold. And that's what's going to take care of this child throughout their life.
Okay.
And so when a baby was, and it weighed so much, whatever that was.
Sure, whatever the weight was, yeah.
Whatever the weight was. And then when a baby was born that weighed the same amount as the gold that was put aside for them, the saying came out, he's worth his weight in gold. Isn't that cool?
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, cool.
So right after that was all put into effect, and right after that was all, kind of going and we're clipping along and stuff, the good old boy, I call them the good old boys because I don't really know who they are. The draconian, the deep state, that we know different words for them now.
Sure. Yeah.
But the good old boys, I call them, came together and said, these people can't do this. They're too stupid. They don't know how to govern themselves. They don't know how to take care of themselves. We'll just take that money and we'll just put that money aside, and then we'll just dole it out to them. We'll take care of them. So they don't have to worry about anything.
We'll be their keepers.
We'll be their keepers. Yeah, wasn't
our
that nice?
Sugar daddies.
Yeah, wasn't that nice of them, huh? Yeah, our sugar daddies, right? So that's kind of what happened. And then, my gift is not remembering a lot of numbers. I can remember conversations, but I don't remember numbers and dates.
Sure.
So I'm not going to use numbers and dates.
Okay.
Any more than I have to. But
we won't hold you to them.
Civil War came about. And the Civil War was supposed to be about slavery, right?
Right.
Right? Isn't that what we thought? Mm-hmm. The Civil War?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
it was supposed to be
That's-
about slavery
that's
and
what-
freeing the slaves and stuff. But in actuality, it was all about the money. Who's
Isn't
gonna
it
get
always?
Yes, it always goes back to the money. But it was who's gonna have the Federal Reserve in the North or the South, and how many of those Federal Reserve banks are going to be where. So all these states are vying for the Federal Reserve. There's 12 Federal Reserve. There's 12 Federal Reserve banks.
Yeah.
And
And
so-
broke up by your last name, right? And it's kind of, I don't know. I'm reading this guy right here. Have you seen this book before?
No, who's it by?
David E. Robinson.
I've
Give
heard of the
yourself
name.
credit
Give
for
yourself
the listeners.
Oh yeah, give yourself credit.
Yeah.
Money doesn't grow on trees.
Yeah, it's
by
great.
David E. Robinson. But
We'll put it in the notes.
he's got all in here. Yeah, we'll put it in the notes. Oh, by the way, if you do want to sign up and get the notes for the show, what you need to do is text in the keyword land1, because we're calling it land one, because back to the land, and one, because this is our first conversation. But yeah, text in the keyword land one, okay, to the phone number 844-992-FREE. That's 844-992-3733. And then we'll send out today's show notes so you can learn more about all of this amazingness. It blew my mind when I first remember learning about it. It was 2003, 2004 is when that's when I kind of put the Federal Reserve Bank together. That was when I first kind of.
Yes. Speaking of the banks, back to the Civil War.
So
Thank you.
what happened was that the guys came in and said, look, we can do better than this. Like, we'll create this whole central bank called the Federal Reserve, and we'll start printing money. And whenever you need money, we'll just print it for you.
Right.
And we can do this. But we need to pull the gold back from the people. So they put out this call to people, bring us your gold. We're in war. We need the gold to fund the war. So all these trusting people that thought the government was there for them gave all their gold away.
Oof.
Jewelry, rings.
So was that
gold.
the 1933 gold, or was this a different time? You know what I mean? I don't know which time you're.
It was during the Civil War that they asked for people's gold.
Oh, in the Civil War, they asked for the gold. Okay, so but then
To
in
fund that war.
1933, they also took the gold. That's when we went off the gold standard. That's when our
Right.
dollar officially. But so the Federal Reserve Act was 1913, right?
Yeah.
Was the Federal Reserve Act when the actual bankers finally, that book right there, Creature from Jekyll Island, very good book. Again, another book we could throw in there.
Book, yeah.
But yeah, it's very interesting trying to track down how they got actual control, right? Because it's banks, it's the banks, and all the banks around the world have control of us. So it's very interesting. But keep going.
Well, see, we've always had banks.
Sure.
I mean, anybody
Well, of course.
that's watched
I'm just
Westerns-
talking about the central banks.
Right. So
Yeah.
but the central banks, I mean, not the central banks, all the banks like in the Westerns that you see and stuff, all of those banks, those were
Private
all
banks, yeah.
privately owned
Yeah.
people that
People
own
banks,
those
yeah.
people banks. And you put your gold in there, you put your silver in there, you put your notes in there.
And greenbacks. They had greenbacks at one point, remember? And that was
Those were silver certificates, I
Right.
think. Silver certificates, but they were all backed by minerals.
something.
They were backed by precious metals.
not fiat, AKA
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
fake.
Exactly. So then that brings us up to now. So in the meantime, I'm going to go way back again to the beginning. So they took this beautiful, amazing, I've lost my word. This beautiful, amazing event
Okay.
when a baby was born. And that's a record of a birth, right? And so there would be records of births. That's what you have. And you'd have that. And it was put into your family Bible. In those days, that's how it was put in there. We didn't have a county court register or a county recorder. So you put that birth record in your family Bible. And that's how people kept track of who was born and to who and when and all
Got you.
that. Then then somebody had this really great idea of, well, let's just create a birth certificate and we'll make it a bond.
That's the enslavement of the humans.
That was the enslavement. That was when it
peoples.
started.
I don't even like the term humans anymore because the humans.
So I have a question. Back in the 1600s or so, when the baby
not
was
that
worth
old.
its weight in gold. No, the concept. So would the family keep all that gold in their home, or was it stored in a bank, or was it kind of just passed down, like grandpa died and so we'll save that until the next baby's born kind of thing? Or
Emily, that's a fabulous question. And I think that's a great rabbit hole if you have time to go down, because I don't know the answer to that at all. I don't know.
I wouldn't know that.
I don't know who
That's a good
controlled
question,
that
though, yeah.
or whatever. But I do know that, like, let's say, because remember, we didn't have a federal government,
Right.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So each town was its own government. Each state, each town, and they weren't states then; they were territories, and
Yep. A municipality.
no, that's now. But those are the words I get really confused
This is what we
about.
use now.
Yeah, those are words I get really confused about. So I try to stay out of that.
Well, because
part.
it's towns and township, right? Like, so, but a township, right? And that's something with maritime.
It's a town and a territory. You talk about. I mean, there's still territories.
territory, and I think a territory to me sounds more landish. Again,
it does.
and that's what these conversations are about. It's exploration, and that's what we're all learning this, and that's why, again, I've got all these books.
Yeah,
don't know if you've
word
seen this.
magic. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, word magic. That's a book for everybody, man. Have you seen that? Have you read that? Seen that
I
book?
have not.
Oh, that book. That's a really good one.
It's out in the hall.
That's in the hall.
So the thing is that how I find out when I make a mistake is with things like this. I'll say something and somebody will say, "Oh, no, that's not correct." Okay, correct me, and then I'm happy to be corrected.
Oh, well, no, yeah, because it's exploration.
I
We're
don't-
just trying to learn.
Right.
Yeah,
I
everybody
don't know
trying to
everything.
figure out, like,
So what I was told is that what you would do is you would keep a tally of all of the monies that you spent. So you would keep a tally of what you spent on not clothes so much, because everybody had to make their clothes. They went to the general store and got the fabric, and how much then they spent on food, and how much they spent on their land, and how much, all that, right? They would keep a tally of it, and then they would turn that in, and somehow they got credit for that. I don't know that they got the cash back.
That's what this book is about right here.
Awesome.
That's what this is
Give
about.
yourself credit.
Well, it's about how actual economy should work, and about how it's the production, the people produce. We are the producers and the consumers. We don't need the government, first of all, which is the siphon, right? And again, it's kind of ridiculous when you think about it. You're like, well, okay, so we have a state government. I had a talk yesterday with this guy. And it was like, okay, so we have a state government. We have a local government. We have all whatever, right? But what we do is we pay our money, right, up to this federal government. Then, and somehow it's supposed to come back down to us through all these like ways and benefit us back down to our local. And it's like, it's kind of ridiculous to think about it that way. Oh my goodness. Yeah. It's like instead of one middleman, you've got like thousands of them in between you and what you actually need in your community. Yeah. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, well, that's local tax, and that's all BS. Again, taxation is theft, and that the people need to get over their obsession with loving to pay taxes, right? Everybody says that they hate paying taxes and they would stop if they could, but then you tell them how they can, and then they tell you you're psychopathic. And I'm like, dude, that's okay. All right, that's okay for now, because it's not going to last forever. Because now it's crazy. That's what I was saying. 2020 kind of woke a lot of people up. Now, mucho more people are willing to listen to the craziness that is my inner skull.
Well, and what I hear from people, my age, right, my generation, they've been so conditioned to believe that those taxes actually fix the roads.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely.
Or they actually do what they say they're going to do with those taxes.
Right.
And there's this, because we've been so conditioned in a poverty consciousness, right? We haven't been brought up to believe that there's an abundance in the universe that takes care of us.
It's all lack, fear.
It's all lack
and
and fear. So it's like, if I don't pay my taxes, then our roads are going to go to hell. Or if I don't pay my taxes, then I don't know.
No,
what else.
we'll fix our roads. That's the thing, is that, and that's where we really get here on the Freedom People podcast. We talk a lot about self-responsibility, and because that's really what it's about, right? And again, I grew up on a ranch, and so I'm not sure why. Maybe that's part of why I have these kind of, I mean, if shit wasn't right, you just fixed it yourself. You dealt with stuff yourself. You know what I mean? Nobody came and helped you do things. You just do, you know what I mean? You're out there, you just do stuff on your own. And I would love to instill that in more and more people, you know.
Well, and think about this. What you just said sparked something in my head too. Yeah. We have to have insurance. Well, what happens if my house burns down? Well, what happened in a community when people's house burned down?
Everybody'd get together and put the water, get the water. Yeah. And then if
they rebuilt the house
together, exactly. Together. If it burns all the way down, and then and that's exactly what I'm saying is like, but again, to your point, we've been sold so much fear for so long that people won't even say hello to their neighbors. We've been here for a while and still haven't met any of our neighbors. I mean, they're kind of nice enough on a wave, but nobody's, you know what I mean? And especially with this COVID stuff, so whatever.
People in masks are creepy to me.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Zombies. Yeah, okay, well, I have my first question. Okay, is that cool? We got to ask, okay, the baseline question is, what does freedom mean to you? And this is a broad question, I get it.
How much time do we have?
Hey, again, we can do, chapters, man. We got books, we can do chapters.
Well, I don't know that it's too much different than what most people would think of and read about freedom, you know. Freedom means to me to be free to be me, to be free to believe what I believe or know what I know, to travel, to
unrestricted travel,
just embrace life, right? And that's freedom to me. And I've pretty much lived my life like that. Even though I know that there's been some restrictions, I just ignored them.
Some applause, please.
Oh, yeah. I got it right first time. Usually I'll do the wah, 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 because it is one of my favorite sounds. We'll do it later.
I'm sure you'll have plenty of reason to do that. But that's what freedom...
Room right there. See, it was that easy? Okay.
So that's what it means to me. I for some reason grew up, and I don't know that I grew up, it was my house that I grew up in. I was taught this. I don't know that that's true, but I've always felt this sovereign connection to the earth. And, I've never been a 9-to-5er.
Sure.
I've never been in the corporate world.
Yeah.
That's not how I'm built.
I'm a circle, man. I don't fit in your squares.
That's it. And that's exactly it right there.
Squares.
No matter how much they sand and change things, it just doesn't fit.
Yeah. So. Nice. Awesome. That's a good one. Okay. Now, and I think maybe next to my next question, I don't have it written down, but would be like, maybe really high level view, just for curious minds, what does becoming a sovereign person, or what does becoming a person of the land, a woman or a man of the land, what does that mean?
Well, the bigger picture is that you've stepped out of a fake, false persona that is a corporation. They put you to the same realm as a corporation. So again, I told you that when I was in this other group, you could go into a certain website and you could look up your CUSIP number. Every single person has a CUSIP number. That's CUSIPIC, CUSIP. And they kind of shut that site down, so I don't know if it's been opened up again. But I remember going into the CUSIP site in 2010, and I put my birth date in there, and I found myself bundled as a security, sold like 15 different times with the bundle of people that were born in the same year as me and the year before me.
Yeah.
And we were sold as securities.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that
told me right there that I'm not a people. I'm not a real living people.
Right.
You're
a commodity.
I'm a commodity. I'm a sheeple. I'm a cattle, a chattel, and to be traded around the world.
Livestock. Yeah.
So the bigger picture is coming back to the land.
So that is what that is, right? And then coming back to the land means what does that mean? I guess, and maybe this kind of rolls just over into how does one accomplish that? Again, high level view.
So
stuff we've already done.
It's a process, and there's process has been out there for a long time. Where people can put in certain forms, but they put them into the municipal county government. So basically you're
putting it right back into the thing you're getting out of.
Exactly.
Right? You're giving your slave master saying, hey, here's my set me free papers.
Here's my set me free.
He's like,
exactly. Okay, I'll take your money and I'll file these.
Yeah.
Right. But now that the republic has been formed, so there's the woman that I was introduced to many years ago was Anna von Wright. And Anna von Wright is a woman who and I don't know her story well enough to tell her story here, but the highlights that I remember are that she, through her husband, he had something to do like with Holland, I think it was, or royalty, and they were going through she was finding out about this. And she's a really interesting woman, and she told us the other night on a call that when her mother found out that by signing the birth certificate, she turned her daughter into a corporation, she was livid, and she wrote like a 10-page letter to the Secretary of State or somebody, like cussing them out for that. And so she's been doing this for 30 some years, and she has found through common law. So there's a couple of different dictionaries for common law. I have Black's Law, which I have been told isn't what we thought it was, but there's other common law dictionaries that talk more about the law of the land. So it's more lawful, right? Not legal. Legal is corporation. Lawful is on the land. So when you're on the land, there's certain laws to the land, right? I don't mess with you. You don't mess with me.
Right.
I don't steal from you. You don't steal from me. I honor you. You honor me. And there's a whole lot of stuff like that. Yeah. And it goes back to biblical stuff too, the 10 Commandments.
Do unto others.
Yeah,
man,
exactly.
That's a nice, easy one.
It's a nice, easy one. So that's what kind of started this. And then she, through her law library and her common law, what do you call them? Not attorneys, but these guys, they went through it with a fine-tooth comb, and they developed this paperwork to do. So the paperwork is you expatriate, not yourself. So one of the things we were talking about, how especially guys in the military, and you might be able to relate to this because I know you were in the military.
Right.
They were like, I'm expatriating myself. I mean, I put all those years into the military and stuff. I don't want to erase that. I don't want to.
Well, nothing erases that. I mean.
Right. But what you're doing is you're not expatriating you. You're not that name.
Right.
That name in all caps, you're not that name. And all of the expatriation paperwork is all in caps. That's a corporation.
Right. And maybe we can kind of just hone in on that really quick, because I think that's really important, right? Because that's another question I have, but it's what would people, there's a fear, and again, this is what we're trying to do here through these conversations, is alleviate a lot of fears and misunderstandings and in all of us, right? Because again, it's drilled into your head for so long that these are the way things are, and if you don't have your nanny state looking over you, what are you going to do? You know what I mean? Oh my goodness, right? So, but like, what is one giving up, right? I know, for example, not that I've voted ever. I voted once, and it was the worst decision of my life. Anyway, I don't know why I did that. And then it just put me in the system. Then I had them. Anyway. So, but like, you can't vote, right? No longer. But again,
that's not true.
I thought
it's not true. So first of all, let's look at the vote. Okay.
Well, I was going to say, because you're voting for that crappy system anyway. So who cares? I mean, I would vote for our things,
exactly,
right?
Exactly, yeah. But the last actual president that we had in this country that we voted in was John F. Kennedy. And after that, it doesn't matter who voted, because...
What happened then? Do we know?
People were put into office that they wanted into office.
Well, yeah, because they took out Kennedy, man. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And he wanted the gold standard. That's why he was taken out.
Absolutely. His speech that he had given a couple days right before he was assassinated. I mean, it's very, very famous. And you can't hardly find it anywhere anymore. And they're whitewashing everything. Again, everything's being pushed digital and they're whitewashing everything. They're just erasing history.
Because they want to rewrite it for their own benefit.
Absolutely. Victors will write history, right?
So one of my biggest fears, I had just gotten on Medicare. I'd just become of age to be on Medicare. And I had some medical things that I wanted to do, right? And I have insurance now. It's like, hey, this is great. And then I found out about the group and I was going to do the paperwork. But my biggest thing was, well, do I have to give up my Medicare? Like I just got insurance,
Yeah.
And what I was told was, Diane, you paid into that your whole life. With every job you did, you paid it. You paid Medicare, you paid into Social Security, you paid into all that. So that's not a handout. They're not handing you anything. That's not a social service.
That's what I'm saying. That's what,
that's yours. You bought that.
So what are people giving up then, Diane, by coming back to the land?
Well, they're giving up They're not really giving up anything.
What is the biggest fear? Come on, you and you both, everybody. What is the biggest fear you hear from people? Like what? I mean, come on. What is the biggest fear? It's like like I said, people want to know, what are they giving up? That's the biggest fear I hear from everybody. Well, what's the downside?
I don't tell them they're giving up anybody. I think they're taking their power back. They're taking
their power
absolutely
back. Okay, but hey, listen, this is about. I'm playing devil's advocate here.
I know you are.
For me, I'm not giving up anything. I couldn't find anything. Again, 20 years ago is something I wanted to do. So I'm more than happy but back then it was impossible. I just didn't even have the time or the resources to even know where to start and where to file. I didn't know about filing. Right. I knew I was an indentured servant.
Right. So I thought I was giving up my right to vote. And I really kind of wanted to vote in this last election. But I had just put my paperwork in, and I was told later that I could have voted in that. I just would have done it a different way. When I went to the polls, I would have asked for a piece of paper that was for American nationals or American citizens.
Okay.
And I would vote like as a visiting dignitary or something.
Sure. Gotcha.
That's kind of how I remember it. That's probably not the actual name of it. So that was a workaround. If I really wanted to do that, then I could. So what I gave up was I gave up my right to get on social services and welfare. I've given up my right to live in Section 8 housing. I've given up my right to suck off of the government.
Okay.
That's what I've given up because I'm no longer a U.S. citizen.
But the government, isn't it a fictitious corporation in the first place?
You ask what I was giving up. I'm telling you.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying.
What about police assistance? Or fire.
Well, to me, why would you want to vote? Because if you understand that it's a fictitious, stupid little thing anyway, then and that's why I thought, you're giving up your right to vote. But if you're doing this, then you would understand why you're doing this, and you wouldn't even want to vote into that system anyway. And this is my biggest argument. This has again been one of my my theories, my main theory right now, and how we get through all of this is by creating a new system.
That's it.
Not by trying to save this old system by voting into it or something.
So the republic is now alive and well.
Can you explain that a little bit more?
And growing. Well, that's what this country was built on as a republic.
Right.
Not Republican.
Right. A republic. Right.
And a republic is, by definition, a sovereign nation.
Okay. A group of sovereign nations or
a sovereign nation or a sovereign, it's sovereign.
So and then you have the states, right? And the states and again, this is I could be out of your wheelhouse or whatever, but it's just I'm still so curious on how we can start to, because again, I had a conversation yesterday with Jason and he's still very much of the mind, and I think I'm winning him over little by little. But of changing it through voting into the same system. You know what I mean? And I'm like, you can't change that. It's like you're just throwing good energy after bad, right? Like good money after bad. You're just like, it doesn't make sense. Once you understand how it all works, you're like, okay, we'll just go ahead and let you all do that. And we're going to focus here now.
Well, I believe the problem is the federal government has gotten too big. Whereas even how it was written is it's supposed to be the states have more power, to say, than the federal government, which is not the case.
Emily, that's exactly right. So if you go back and look at some of the past presidents and some of their speeches, people are putting those out there now. They have said over and over, when the federal government takes over, that has power over the states and the people, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Right? And so look what's happened with the pandemic, or I like scamdemic. That's my favorite.
Plandemic.
Yeah,
Sure.
plandemic, scamdemic. Yeah. But look what's happened. All of a sudden, the federal government's telling me how to take care of myself, how to take care of my health. Like,
What happened to my body, my choice? What happened to that? Huh?
What? The federal government's telling me.
And it happened like that, huh? Well, it seemingly so, but they've been wearing away for generations at people's rights, little by little, so that they don't really realize they're being taken, right? It's just like you're kind of being led into a corner that you don't know you're in the corner until it's too late. Now
Here's
you're
a couple
stuck
of books.
in the corner.
Here's a couple books for you. The
Sure.
Dumbing Down of America
Okay.
is an excellent book because it shows exactly how they did this.
Sure.
How they started decades ago and they did it. And then another book is called The Century of Self. And The Century of Self is about Edward Bernays.
Okay.
And Edward Bernays was the cousin to Freud.
Okay.
And he was very fascinated about getting people to do what they didn't want to do, or they didn't know they didn't want to do it, right? And so he went to Anna Freud. I think it's his daughter, Freud's daughter, Anna, who started psychotherapy. And he said, what do you have to do to get people to do things that you don't want to do? So cigarettes was the one main thing that I remember that he did. The cigarette companies called him and said, hey, we need you. You know, like you're making great strides. How do we get women to smoke? Because we're losing a lot of business here. Men smoke, but women don't smoke. And we need women to smoke. I mean, we need more business. So he went to Anna and he found out and he said, what does a cigarette represent to a woman? And she said, well, it represents a penis and power. So he hired all these actresses to get in front of people and say, women, take back your power.
Yeah.
And just smoking like crazy. And cigarette sales went crazy. And then after that, it's used. And after you read that book,
right,
you will be totally blown away.
Yeah.
You won't be able to go down the street without seeing that work in action.
It's manipulation. Absolutely.
A manipulation in action.
For sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's marketing and advertising, and it's
and that's how they did it. So that's exactly how they got us where we are right now.
Okay.
It's through that manipulation. And the falsity of thinking that our government is there to help us. They're there to take care of us.
Right. It's all BS.
Right?
It's BS.
And it's like,
100%.
first of all, that whole premise takes our power away.
Right.
All of a sudden, we have no power to help ourselves
Right.
because it's been taken away from us.
We've given it away.
And we've given it away.
We've given it away. And we talk about that a lot here too. Absolutely.
Given it away.
Well, and that's the thing is nobody wants to be held responsible,
right?
Nobody wants to be self-accountable for anything. It's you're responsible for my child's education. You're responsible for my education. You're responsible for my health. You're responsible for just put anything there. But what you're doing every time you say you're responsible for me is giving your power away, or you're responsible for something else means you have no control over that, which means you have no power. And little by little, we've just given our powers away, powers, now to the point where people are just whatever they are told to do. The good amount of them.
They want to be told what to do.
Yeah, they do.
They don't know how to not be told what to do and how to think for themselves,
This drove it home for me. I went to get my hair cut about a month or so ago, and it was right after the governor, said,
doucheraggy. Yeah.
It's not even his real last name.
Okay.
Oh yeah, Scooter. What's his name?
The guy.
Roscoe.
The guy.
Whatever.
He decided that he's not going to do the mask thing anymore, that each business has to decide for themselves. And I'm like, oh, yay. I do have a choice now.
Yeah.
I have a choice of where I go, right?
Yeah.
And so I was getting my hair cut, and the ladies were talking about it. And she's like, oh, wait a minute, I got to hear this. And then she said to me, oh, my God, I'm totally screwed. My business is going to close. I'm going to lose my business. And I'm like, why would you even think that? She said, because I can't win. And I knew that he was going to do this to us. I knew that he was going to make it our decision. And once I make that decision, she doesn't wear a mask, but once I make the decision not to wear a mask in my salon, I'll lose business.
Yeah, but you also gain business, which is a beautiful.
That's
thing.
what I told her.
Yeah.
Then if I decide to wear a mask, I lose business. And I said, yeah, but look at me. You are a very powerful woman. And whatever you're putting out there in this diatribe in your mind, you're going to get back. So why don't you do it this way? Why don't you put out there and say, yeah, I'm going to lose some business, but I'm going to gain so much more.
Yeah, and keep my dignity and my freedom, which again, to me is the most important thing. I would rather go out of business and keep my freedom.
Absolutely.
And find another way to make money. We have to it has to be the hard line in the sand. But here's the thing. That's why what we're doing is creating these platforms. If you go to thefreedompeople.org, you can sign up for any of our platforms. It's really cool. We have the directory, which and the social media platform, which we've got, and now the job board, which we're hoping to have up next week.
Awesome.
Right. And this is where employers and employees and stuff like that, people who need jobs can go and find, again, employers that are not going to be freaking Nazis about it.
I'm so happy you're doing that. So you asked for the bigger picture.
Yes, thank you.
So what the Republic is that it's more the territories, and I'm not even sure that's the right word, but it's very small. So like we have a state chairman. Okay. So our state chairman is our the person over our assembly in the state.
Is that Dennis?
That's Dennis,
Okay.
and he's in Arizona. He's in Sedona. And then, so he when people want to know more about this, they'll go to the AmericanStatesAssembly.net.
Right.
Right? That website. Yep. That's where you went.
Yep.
I think.
Yep.
And you filled out the contact form and said, I want to know more about this. I live in Arizona.
Yeah.
So all those letters go to Dennis. Then Dennis writes to them and says, well, where do you live in Arizona? What county do you live in?
Yep,
so I can get you to the right person, right?
He sent me to you.
And then I'm in Maricopa, and I'm the chairwoman in Maricopa, right? And so we have a state government that's the people, of the people, for the people, by the people, the way it's originally supposed to be.
Okay.
So we have a coroner, we have a sheriff, we have a justice, we have jurors.
Yep.
Right? We have a secretary, we have a treasurer. So we have all of that at the state level, and then we have a county. We have a county group like that too.
Okay.
So you see, it's like a concentric circle in a way. You have the bigger circle,
Absolutely.
and then the smaller. So you have the state as the bigger circle, and then each county is the smaller one.
Right.
So each county, and we don't have, all of our counties aren't up and running. Maricopa's up and running, which means we've already started our courts.
Okay. And and from what I understand, all 50 states are in session now?
All 50 states are in session.
Okay.
Yep.
And what does that mean first?
It means that they have what I just said.
Okay. And
They
that
have
means
a
with
government.
the court, what were you just starting to,
The courts, our courts are in session. So we have a jury, we have a justice, we have a judge, we have we have what we need, right?
so the people are the jury?
Yes.
Right.
And when so I'm also a court clerk. So when a case comes up where there's been an injustice to a man or an injustice to a woman,
Okay.
it comes in and we hear that case. And if that case is a case that we can hear and take to the jury, then we decide to take the case on.
Okay.
Then we have investigators that investigate that case, all the paperwork, everything,
Okay.
questions, all that stuff. Then they let me know that we're ready. So then right now it's all online. Then they let me know, and I pull the jury together, which is 12 living men and women, and one is 13. We have 13, so one that fills in if somebody can't come. So they all come together. We have a time that we come together. The person that we're coming to court for tells us what happened. Like maybe their kids were taken from them.
Okay.
Maybe their kids were taken from them. Maybe they were accosted because they didn't have a mask on. Maybe their employer let them go because they wouldn't fall into...
Muzzle themselves.
Yeah. They
Whatever.
wouldn't fall into
Sure.
whatever,
Sure.
So we decide if that case is a case that we handle at our are part of our governing, and then we do all the paperwork, and that paper's also then they're served. The judge, the not the general attorney, the prosecuting attorney, they're all served these paperworks.
Okay.
So our justice does the serving.
Okay.
But that's only between a man and a man, right? You don't contract out to the fictitious world.
No.
Right? Okay.
No. Nope.
Huh.
And I don't know what you mean by contract out.
Well, you don't make contracts with the fiction.
Exactly.
Right.
However, like
you were
right
saying,
now,
if someone got their kids taken away,
that's CPS.
right.
Right.
So, but you would take that
So
case.
what we call it a nullification.
Oh.
We nullify that decision that they did because it harmed our client. It harmed one of ours. There was harm, and there was no, in this particular case, there was no paperwork that she did anything. Mm-hmm. It was like
so
really
she had her.
ludicrous.
So in this example, right? Like this woman, CPS, Child Protective Services, whatever you want to call them, whatever, took her kids, right, without her permission, which is kidnapping, right? Okay. However, they were allowed to do that, right? What gave them the authority to do that?
Well, that's it. They think they have the authority.
Well, if they came in and did it, I mean, it's just like you kind of said, right? Possession is 9/10 of the law. I mean, they come in and they do it, then they're doing it. I mean, so what does one do? Do you have to say no and, guns? Or, I mean, how do you you know what I mean? Like, where is that? Again, it's just, and these are questions I get quite a bit, right? It's
Right.
like, and there are questions. It's just like,
so so that's part of the remedy that you're talking about. What's the remedy? What can we do to prevent this from happening?
well, I just don't want my kid. Yeah, I don't want my
Right?
kid taken in the first place.
Nobody
it's
does.
not happening.
Yeah, nobody does, right? And so the thing is that because we're charting new territory here, we've never done this before. We keep bumping up to stuff like this. Okay, what do we need to do here?
Sure, gotcha.
So we have all these committees. Everybody has committees within their governing body of the people, for the people, by the people, right? That are looking into the lawful terms of what happened and what's going on. Not the legal, because that's
The
not
lawful.
not our jurisdiction, right? The lawful. And then we take those lawful terms and turn them in. Now, it's a process. And I wish I could tell you that, like when we do stuff like that, they go, oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Let
Right.
me give you your child back.
because they don't even know what they're doing themselves.
they have no idea.
Right.
They've been conditioned just like we have,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, absolutely. And again, that's why this education has to keep happening. These talks have to keep happening for the education and just hopefully the more and more people, you know what I mean? Even
To me, it seems like makes perfect sense. Like, I don't know if I lived that many past lives when this was happening, but I'm getting flashbacks in my head of like Western times. And I'm like, yeah.
And see, I think that Child Protective Services, Adult Protective Services, those are organizations and things, I think, that were started by somebody that had a really good heart. I give people the benefit of the doubt.
Sure.
I'm all about love. I'm all about seeing the love and the God in everybody, right?
Yeah.
So I want to believe
that people have good intentions.
that people had good intentions and they started those because I work with a lot of elderly people and they get taken advantage of. You would not believe.
No, I know.
Oh my God. So I'm so glad Adult Protective Services is there as a watchdog, right? I'm glad that Child
At some
Protective
level.
Services.
See, but here's the thing is I think it's for me. I think all those things need to go away, and we need to like be accountable for our own.
It's about self-governing.
Where are these? Yes, and exactly. That's what
Your
I'm saying. Is like
neighbors, yeah.
where where's their family? There's no family for these old people, and if there is none, then there's communities, and we got to go back to this more village kind of style. You know what I mean? Where we do care and talk to each other, and we. And and again, I'm not sure how that comes about, but
let's buy a town.
Well, and we'll see, but we've talked about this a lot, right? And Yes, I want my own town. I've always wanted my own town since I was a wee little boy.
I bet.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's more like, for me, I want to spread the idea. Yes. It's the idea. Yes. And then we could do it here on this block.
Of course
and you could do it in your community now. And that's where I think it needs to happen. So it's more like wildfire.
Why do you think that doesn't happen anymore? It used to. So why do you think, what happened?
Because people work for other people, mainly big corporations, and we forgot how to do stuff.
Oh, your neighbor and stuff. Yeah. And again, I grew up in a small town where you waved to people that you didn't know, which was rare anyway, right? I mean, but yeah, I mean, we knew our neighbors. I mean, all of them, and we'd have parties, and the neighbors were there. I mean,
block parties.
Well, I mean, that's and maybe that's just the thing, is that like you need to start kind of maybe just and then now we're going back to kind of like
to the basics,
separating him.
Well, the point
or
that
I feel Amish half the time now.
I know, right? But that's the point that I was trying to make, is that the conditioning of fear has been, and distrust has been so bred into people, to the point where people don't trust people.
Right.
They just don't trust
people. I mean, that's very apparent and again, that it's happening, I mean, now at freaking on steroids after 2020. Because now people literally are afraid, believe that person, if they even get near me within 6 feet, I'll die.
Do you know how horrible it is to have allergies at this time of the year? It's like every time I sneeze, I'm like, oh my God, they're going to take me away and put me in some kind of a camp.
Right? Yeah. Well, hey, and this is all such amazing stuff. And if anybody wants to get the show notes, I would highly recommend you text in the keyword land1 to 844-992-FREE. That's 844-992-3733. Text in that keyword land1, and we'll send out today's show notes. And you can learn more about all this stuff.
And in the show notes, I have some websites you can put in there.
Beautiful. Okay. Yeah, we'll pack it up as much as possible. And hopefully we'll have a resource guide at some point.
That'd be great.
Yeah, we're working with Peggy right now. Yeah, to build I don't want to say too much. I don't know, but it's an education platform, right? And I want this to be part of an education platform, regardless of what happens. So people have a resource to look. Okay, here's and like you said, the American State Assembly, Wright.net. Is that what it is? Right? AmericanStateAssembly.net, which is I send that to everybody all the time. I'm like, here, just go here, because it's a great resource for that. I mean, it's so in depth.
Well, the one of the what did I do with it? It's a YouTube that I'll send you the link to. I didn't bring it because it's too long to talk over the phone, but I'll email it to you immediately or text it to you. Cool. But it's a great cartoon that somebody did based on Anna's understanding of what it means to get put back on the land.
Okay.
Oh, like Schoolhouse Rock style?
I don't know about that, but it's just a cute little quirky 15-minute cartoon, and it's really good. I had somebody write to me from a Telegram and say, does anybody out there have like a video that explains this in a few minutes, like for a 5-year-old? Because my family's just not getting this.
Yeah.
So I sent her that, because that's exactly what it does. It helps explain it, and it starts to open it up. And she's like, I tell them stuff and they don't, but it goes back to that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Mm-hmm. If you're not ready to hear this, Amen. It's not going to happen.
Well, cults do it all the time.
Yeah, they do. I know, they're good at it too.
Drink the Kool-Aid.
But see, we don't want to do that, because we've already just got out of that.
Right,
we all just moved away from the whole cult. They call us a cult, right?
I know.
And what I laugh about, it's like, no, we just left the cult.
Yeah. Right, and all I'm trying to do is self-empower people. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. My cult is the cult to end all cults, which is ironic, but it's just to wake you up.
I just came from a cult. I just put all this paperwork in and moved me from the cult so I could be on the land and a living woman making your own decisions and self-governing and being self-responsible. I think self-responsibility has been a big thing for me my whole life.
But there's freedom in that. I mean, there is no freedom without that. Right. Like we were saying, because you've given that to someone else. So essentially, you've also given your freedom away.
I don't know about
with
you
your
guys,
power.
but I was not taught, But I saw in my generation that there was always a scapegoat. It was always, it was his fault. Oh, he did that.
Yeah.
Nobody
Pointing
ever
the finger.
took self-responsibility.
Passing the buck.
Right?
Passing the
They
buck,
passed the buck. Yeah. Nobody took self-responsibility. And I saw that when I was really, really young.
Yeah.
And so it's always been kind of a thing for me to.
Well, I was raised that way. I mean, you just own your shit.
Yeah. Right.
It's just extreme ownership, and it's
Which is
fine. I mean,
interesting
and I've
because,
gotten better over time. And there was times in my life when I wasn't. I mean, because you're growing up and despite, I don't know, I have no idea really, I am where I am today, and where I am today is I'd rather just do it all on my own. Leave me alone. I've always been like that though.
Me too.
What I mean?
Yeah, me too. I was raised with.
It's an independent spirit. You know what I mean? Where and that's
I
what I
raised
want
like
to instill in people. What happened to adventure? What happened to look? We take a level of risk every day. Every day. You know that we could drop. You know that all the traffic deaths could be dropped by 80% if we dropped the speed limit to 20 miles an hour, right? But nobody wants the speed limit on the freeways to be 20 miles an hour, right?
Only if I'm on a horse.
Right, because we never get anywhere, right? But we're willing to take that much risk. You know what I mean? And hundreds of thousands of people die on the roads every year, right? I mean, so we're okay with that, right? And again, but we need our adventure, our sense of adventure and excitement and love and joy back. And like you said, it's trying to get it through this fear that's just kind of got it clamped down on us.
Yeah. I don't know, Brad, about that because I haven't had an accident in 25 or 30 years, and the first accident I had was in a parking lot. I'm not sure I can quite agree with this speed limit thing.
Fair.
Anyway, it's okay.
Yeah, I don't trust people.
I think it doesn't matter how fast you're going. It's about focus. And when you've got your focus on about 10 other things or your mind's not on driving, and we haven't been taught that. We haven't been taught it doesn't matter what you're doing. This goes back to like a Zen thing, right?
Yeah.
If you're doing dishes, do the dishes.
Yeah.
If
One
you're
thing at a time.
Cook.
Yeah.
Right.
If you're
You fully
whatever
present
you're
in the moment.
fully
In the moment, yeah.
present in the moment.
Eckhart Tolle. That's
Yeah.
another great book. The Power of Now. We'll put that in the notes, I guess. That's pretty much should be in every show. But it is. It's living in the present moment, which is the only moment that ever exists.
And it should be in schools. That's the stuff that we should be teaching in schools.
Immediately. And I've been saying this for a long time, is know thyself. Yeah. If we know that, if you know thyself, and we can work wonders, especially with teen suicide, and just kind of, as adults, we need this more than anything. People need to really get in touch with their inner self.
Suicide with 20-year-olds is so huge right now. I mean, I'm just blown away.
Well, look what's going on. They don't have any social life, man.
Well, and it's mostly boys. So here, can we digress just a little
sure.
bit? So one of the things that I put a lot of energies, because one of them was my nephew, and really good friends of mine that had young men commit suicide, and I have a background in psychology, and what that tells me is that men have an innate knowing that they're the providers. They have this innate knowing that they're there to take care of their woman. Yeah. They're there to take care of their children. They're the providers, Yeah. They're the protectors.
Yeah, I feel super good when I come home with groceries. It's still a weird thing, and because I like to notice in myself. You know what I mean? You're the breadwinner, and you bring home groceries, and you're like, yeah. Or even when she brings them home, you're like, yeah. I don't, you know what I mean? I don't know why. It's like I'm not. It's just it's a feel good thing, yeah.
But when you think about it, and when you think about our societal pressures of women to be independent, women have become so independent. Not that I believe that they need to be needy or depend on men.
Not at all.
Now, I'm not saying that, but they've become so independent that what it's done is these guys don't know who they are anymore. Right. They don't know their role anymore.
Right.
They don't. That innate.
That's a huge part of it. It's destruction.
Them.
It's destruction of the nuclear family, and this it has been constructively happening. This has been what is the word constructively? I don't know what the frick that was. It's been done on purpose. This is full on. This is the collapse of the nuclear family. This has been done on purpose. This is it starts in the black homes big time. I mean, look at BLM on their website. They were saying that one of their, it's not there anymore, but was to destroy the nuclear family, right? Which means a man, a woman.
Just wants everyone to be dependent
Absolutely.
on them.
And how do you do that with no nuclear family, right? And I get your point. That's a great point, is that men, I mean, and what are we,
what's your place? Where's your place now? Because you got a woman that doesn't need you.
Yeah, exactly.
They all have vibrators, so they don't need you for that.
But then there's this man hating, right? And this degradation of men and this like belittling of men that's been going on for a long time, and the rise of the butch chick and the fuck that guy, fuck that.
And then especially with the unemployment, with the lockdowns, a lot of men I know were like, well, shit.
Now what's my role now?
Yeah, or what's my worth? Yeah,
what's my worth?
Can't
right, exactly. So I think that there was a lot of that, and I think that's really important to understand, because that they didn't have they didn't have the sovereignty. They didn't have that sovereign nature that knows. Even before I put my paperwork in, I was a sovereign being.
Same.
I knew my power.
I've always done what I wanted. I've never asked for permission. I've been smoking dope my whole life, but I've been smoking weed my whole life, and it was highly illegal when I was a kid. Like felony if you got a little bit of weed on you kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah,
I was in jail for 3 weeks because of that. So,
but how ridiculous is that? We're talking about a plant that's never hurt anyone, never killed anybody, right? Ever. But we got booze out here, no problem, alcohol everywhere, which that is the gateway drug, okay? You want to talk about something that's a gateway drug? That is, not pot. And again, it should be raising red flags in anybody with a consciousness. If the government is got it still a Schedule I drug, still to this day, it's a Schedule I drug, which means it's worse than cocaine. It's just as bad as
alcohol?
No, cannabis.
Oh, cannabis.
Cannabis is still a Schedule I drug, which means it has zero medical use whatsoever.
That's not true.
No, but that's what it is still in the federal government. It's right up there with PCP and methamphetamines, right? Right? It's cocaine is less. Cocaine is a Schedule II, which means that it has some medical purpose. But still, cannabis plant still does not. Okay, well, and there should be something that to everybody should be just like, wait, okay, there's something not right.
Well, I was a drug and alcohol counselor for 7 years.
Okay.
I've been sober for 35 years.
Okay.
So 39 years, almost 40 years. And in my time of working with
jail scared you that bad? Dang weed.
No, I got pregnant and couldn't do it anymore. It made me sick. So, and then once you get away from it, you just don't worry about it. Sure. Yeah, but what I did find out, because I worked at higher levels, like I worked with Bill Clinton in Arkansas. He was the governor, and he had a great program for schools. So I used to go to schools and teach prevention programming. But the interesting thing is that people don't realize how much the left hand was war on drugs. Yeah, we're doing war on drugs. While the right hand was bringing the drugs in.
Absolutely.
They were bringing all the drugs in. And that's the only reason marijuana wasn't legal. It used to be legal.
Yeah.
100 years ago.
And it wasn't called marijuana. You know where the term marijuana comes from?
No.
It's actually a derogatory term to scare people. Oh. It's propaganda. So there was this back.
I just called it pot because it was easy to remember.
Well, yeah, pot, right?
Spell
weed,
that.
All this, right? But marijuana, it was because it was associated with the scary Mexicans across the border.
Oh, interesting. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that.
Yeah, but it's called mota in Espanol, right? So it's not marijuana is not a Spanish word or Mexican word, if you will.
It's a made up word. So I do know that they used to grow a lot of hemp in this country.
Absolutely.
And clothing and ropes.
First law in the United States was for hemp, was actually for in any mentioning cannabis or the hemp in any way and it was for farmers that they had to allocate a certain amount of their crop space to this, because that's what hemp for victory.
So
World War.
powerful.
It was for all the ropes. They would use them for the ropes and the anchors and all that good stuff. Yeah.
So then the cotton people came in and they paid the lobbyists to go to the government and say, hey, we got to get rid of the hemp.
Yeah.
Because we're bringing cotton in, right?
Yeah, and also nylon rope, and which is petroleum. Yeah. And that was they wanted to start using the nylon rope to replace the hemp as well, which. But
so
we know
illegal, and the only reason it's legal now is because they finally figure out how they can capitalize on it and monetize for their own pockets.
Yep.
So anyway, okay, well, I guess we got off the subject a little bit.
This is all subject. This is all. Do you have any questions there, Miss M?
I don't think, I mean.
Well, how about this? We're going to end right now. But before we do, what I want you to do is let everybody know how to get a hold of you. Do you have any contact information you want to put up? Or should we just let everybody know to go to the AmericanStatesAssembly.net?
Well, if you're in Maricopa County,
okay.
If you're listening to this and you're in Maricopa County, you can write directly to me at maricopacoordinator@icloud.com.
Okay.
And just put in the subject line, heard you on the podcast or the Freedom People podcast
Okay.
or something. So then I'll know where it came from. Otherwise it goes, it goes to a woman that runs that site in Washington, and then she gets hundreds and hundreds of emails, and then she's got to go through them and get them sent to Dennis, and then Dennis gets hundreds and hundreds of. So it could be like a week.
Well, what I did though is I went to I think it was AmericanStatesAssembly.net, AmericanStatesAssembly.net, and I scrolled down and I went to my state representative and I emailed, and that was straight to Dennis.
Yeah, it doesn't go straight to Dennis, but that's okay.
Okay.
And so it just takes it a little longer. What I'm working on right now, do you want to know what I had a dream about yesterday?
Yeah, please.
Before we quit?
Yeah.
So I had this dream yesterday that we did a public gathering. So somebody out there has a warehouse or an empty building that they let us use where we can bring people in, and we have people speaking about what we're talking about today and the process. And then when they're ready and they feel that's what they want to do, they go into another area where we have all of our recording secretaries for the state in a room. And you get your paperwork filled out, you get your paper witnessed, you get your papers stamped, you get your papers uploaded, bam.
No, that's funny that you say that because, well, that was actually something that I've been thinking about as well is getting and doing like a freedom rally, if you will, right? Have a freedom rally and just having, like you said, and like, what is the term I'm looking for? I guess rally is fine. Not rally, but the convention. There you go. Yeah. Like a freedom convention where we can have, and everybody can go. You can come in and do all these things all in one place. Let's keep that in mind. I really like that idea.
Yeah. So I'm looking for a place because right now we have all of our business meetings online. We have them on a high definition call.
Sure.
Because they're recorded. But I would love to have once a month or every other month we do meet and greets.
Yeah.
But it's getting hot. It's going to start getting hot.
Need indoors somewhere.
So our next one's May 15th, and they're at public parks. So it's kind of hard to have kind of trainings at a public park.
Well, and especially once, like you said, once it starts getting hot down here, it's dang near impossible to be outside.
So I'm looking for a place we can do that. I don't think somebody's home is appropriate, to open it up to the public, but I know somebody out there has a building that's sitting empty that they just want it to be used for the right purpose.
Well, and I think we might know some people that can help us. And again, if someone's listening to this and wants to help out, just get in touch with us. Yeah, you can go to
maricopacoordinator@icloud.com.
Okay.
Sweet.
Awesome.
And then I'll give you the rest of these websites that people can go to look at. Anna's is got thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of articles, and it can be very overwhelming, but it's got a great search engine. So you just type in like basics and everything that has the word basics in it will come up. Or
okay.
You type in, whatever you're interested, you type
search
in
term.
and it will bring up the 10 or 20 articles that she has or videos. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you for having me on today.
Diane A. Light,
Thank you so
so
much.
much. And until next time.
All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.